Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Sell Your Vision. My name is Moti from Atlantic Brands, and as you know by now, the entire purpose of this podcast is to bring in the most innovative founders to share their stories on how they were able to raise money and how they were able to tell their story, their product differentiators, in order to secure the funds they need in order to scale the business. And today I have a good friend of mine, Akos Kisdozai. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, which is kind of bad if I didn't, because we've been working together for quite a while. Akos is from Airtime, a magnificent company that is doing user research and allows companies to really feed their product perfectly to the markets they're operating in. But I'm going to let Akos tell us a bit about Airtime, and then we're going to dive into his fundraising stories. Akos, tell us a bit about Airtime.
Moti, thanks a lot and pleasure being here. You did very well with my name. It's a Hungarian name and Hungarians have difficulty spelling it and pronouncing it right. So it was very well. Um, about Airtime. Airtime is a real-time research engagement platform. And what Airtime focuses on is to help product teams validate feature ideas or feature changes within a few days. And I'm a product builder. I built a number of financial products and digital platforms in the past, and so did my co-founder. And what we realized is that as you build stuff, there's so much waste in there, so many features that your users don't value and don't end up using. And now that I'm running my own company and I see like the monthly salary costs, it's sort of like it hits me big time how important it is that your R&D team is focused on developing the right features. And this is what we want to help other software companies to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I read somewhere not too long ago that R&D teams are spending roughly 50% of the time on redoing avoidable tasks. And this is because many of the product teams, many of the startups are kind of, in the grow on the go mode. They don't research properly at the beginning. And as you said, R&D teams, salaries are expensive, and we all know that R&D is probably one of the most expensive departments in every company. So you're helping them reducing the time to get to product market fit. Is that a good description?
That's an accurate description because what happens is like mm, maybe a step back. One of my favorite quotes from a webinar that we had a guest speaker, and he said like building stuff is the most expensive way of validating. And if you're in a startup, you're in this constant pressure mode from your investors, from yourself, from the market of like developing. And a typical qualitative research process where you talk to your users, you analyze those interviews, it takes weeks. Now, nobody has time for that today. So we think the only way to squeeze it in it is to automate as much as possible and simplify so you can get it done in a few days and then make it part of every product sprint.
That's fascinating. It's super fascinating. I love it. I love it. And so let's dive into your early days, right? You have an idea to start a company. We all go through this journey. You tell it to your wife, you tell it to your family, and you realize, okay, we're about to embark on this really tough journey that not too many people have the guts to go for. And the one thing you need is funds. I remember a story you told me where some other founder came to you and he said, "Oh, you're lucky that you were able to raise money." And you said, "Lucky, I was working super hard on it." So walk me through kind of the first steps of raising money where you have nothing but a presentation and a half-baked product where you have to kind of sell your vision.
So it's a bit of background info about me. I worked in a number of startups beforehand. I was always one of the first employees there, but it's the first time I do my own startup, and I founded my own startup. So going through this journey of fundraising, of how to do it, it involved a lot of learnings on my side, wasted time, put it differently. The way I started, maybe I tell you like a quick like a timeline of what I did. So first, what I did was I came up with like the list of ideal investors and then a list of, I'm going to call them second tier investors. There's like still really, really good investors, but I thought like I'd rather like mm, rehearse and practice my pitching and my storyline with them, see what feedback I get, because you can very quickly put together a little Q&A document for yourself about the questions that investors ask, and you can either rework your presentation and tackle them there, or you can prepare some good answers for that on your own. So anyhow, I started with this, then very diligent. My background is also strategy consultancy, so there's like a lot of structure in the work I do. I do all these interviews, not interviews, just pitches, learn, refine my presentation. Then I go out to tier one guys. I had about 20 discussions by the time I realized I'm talking to the wrong investor. So I did, and it was like super painful because I put so much emphasis on Akash, be prepared, think about who your investor is, who's the right person. But uh, maybe it's my lack of previous experience in fundraising, but I had the wrong notion of who my customer, who my investor is for the stage that we were in.
Interesting. How did you find out that you have the wrong investors? That's an interesting exercise to kind of walk through.
So at one point in time, I got introduced to I was talking to VCs. Okay, so let's put it out there. I was talking to pre-seed VCs, and I wanted to get a lead investor from there, and then fill up the rest of the round with some angel syndicates or larger angel tickets. Now, at one point in time, I got introduced to a super angel. He became to be our lead investor, um, and I had a call with him. It was a Monday, 3 p.m. I remember a half an hour call. I talked to him, and at the end of the call, I asked him, "Okay, so Jared, what's your investment process? How does it work?" And he said, "Well, Akos, you just went through it. I'll give you an answer in 24 hours." And in 2 hours, I got the thumbs up from him, and he told me like he's willing to be my lead investor. And that like discussion and that call and the way he reacted, the pace at which he answered me, it sort of put like into perspective all the rest of the discussions that I was having. So I started thinking like maybe if it went this well with Jared, then let me find other people like Jared. It's like finding your
Yeah.
first customer and then
Yeah.
finding the ones. It's a very good analogy, and this was super helpful for me to just acknowledge, write down the loss in terms of lost time that I spent on the wrong type of investors, and then focus on angel investors who have product experience and who felt the pain that airtime solves firsthand.
Interesting. So it's actually important to really qualify the investors to match you rather than just, putting a white net over and trying to see who is going to give you money. It's almost kind of like job interviews, right? You can try and focus on the companies that are relevant to your experience, or just go for endless job interviews that are going to be frustrating because they're not a good fit for you.
Yeah, and I even thought I did my homework because I looked at these VCs and I saw, okay, they invest in B2B SaaS, so that's the like the play field of of airtime. What I didn't realize at this point is because we're pre-seed and we're selling a dream. We had a prototype and a few customers back in the days. Um, unless the investor can feel the pain and they lived through it, they can't imagine the impact of airtime. And I needed to find people who could imagine the how good it feels when you build stuff that your users appreciate and are willing to pay for. And those like happen to be entrepreneurs and startuppers who built their startups and already made their learnings in product development, and like to some extent either failed with their startups or burnt a lot of money building the wrong stuff.
Got it. You brought up a super interesting word. You said imagine. They need to kind of understand your pain and imagine why your solution is a great solution. And like you said, you in the pre-seed or seed stages, and you have to sell your vision. You have to allow them to imagine. How important is storytelling in kind of that process? What is the balance between I have to prove my business model or I have to capture their imagination? How do you kind of do this dance?
So I think the first step is they have to be fascinated by the vision. If they're not fascinated, it's like the VC game, right? They want a multiplier on your business. Like if they can't imagine to be big, like you can be like the best salesperson, whatever. They're not gonna. It's my experience. They're not gonna deal. So you need to paint on the one hand a very like compelling vision that is not just like compelling on the numbers, but it's something that emotionally grabs them and makes them interested. And the second part that you need to add to that, in a pre-seed stage, you're not going to have all the answers, but they have to feel confident that you did your homework so far, and every decision that you made, you based it on like reliable and reasonable data that you could gather. So you give them the comfort that you continue to work like this, and they have the trust, they develop this trust in you that no matter what type of problem you'll face, you'll have a diligent method to deal with them, and you'll figure it out.
So for the most part, they are buying more into you, your vision, and their sense of your ability to hustle it through.
Yes, I think the scientific term is solution founder fit or market founder fit, but they have to see that there's a big vision and that you can build it. So some sort of like not some sort of like good personal and relevant personal experience that you have from the past is important, because otherwise they say, okay, that's a great idea, but Akash, uh, how can I know that you can build this? I'm unsure. I don't know.
Got it. That's super interesting. Um, 2023 has been super hard, especially on tech. There are a lot of amazing founders out there who are trying to raise money, and they're hitting a wall, not because their product is not good, not because they're not experienced founders, but something in their pitch is obviously not penetrating through the roughness of 2023. With your experience, what would you advise emerging founders today as they're trying to raise money? What would be your top 3 points, two, one, whatever that comes to mind, that will help them get the money they need?
So that's a really good question. When I think back of my own process, it was about like iterating as you iterate on your product. Like pitch a lot. It's also a numbers game. You need to pitch to a lot of people, gather the feedback, take what's relevant, um, change your messages according to that, change your pitch, and then move on to the next investors. And then I think that's what you have control of, right? There's you cannot have like control of the stock markets that is out there. I got like some declines from investors who said like, Akash, I like your idea and I like you, but you know what? Like my money is in the stock market, and all my tech stocks, they just fell 30% or 40%. I'm not going to sell any of this to invest in your company. So bad timing. There's like unfortunately that part is life, that you have no control over. That what you the control over that you have is about the story that you build, and how much attention you pay to what investors tell you, and how you try to work it into your pitch.
Got
that's
it.
that's one thing.
Cool. So first point is, if I'm kind of recapping everything you said so far, you have to sell on your vision. You have to let them imagine where you can take it. But you, as a founder, although you're selling emotion, try not to be so emotional about the process, because the reality of the market is that you're going to get more no's than yes today, and you just have to keep pushing and keep pitching.
I think that's and I'm not the first one to say this, but that's the hardest part on your ego. You have this little baby, and you believe in it, and you're telling that to people, and then they say, "It's an ugly baby. I don't like it," and then, like that's the last thing you want to hear. And you feel like I'm gonna strangle this
That's
guy.
brilliant.
But no, you shouldn't strangle. Like just swallow it. If it's not a qualified feedback, leave it behind. Don't let it hurt you. Like not everyone's feedback is equally qualified and relevant for your business. But you need to develop this thicker skin. I didn't find a way around this. Do this, and then when you find the first person that likes your business, like Jared did, celebrate it, cherish it, and think about that moment when you got that email or you had that confirmation in a phone call, and that gives strength.
That's brilliant. I really love the ugly baby analogy. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Let's bring some humor into it. It's you're out there, you're pitching, you're by yourself, right? No one can imagine the process and the hardship that you're going through. And sometimes you're making mistakes where you're kind of grabbing your head and you're saying to yourself, I can't believe I just said it. If you don't mind, kind of share with us one of those mistakes that you kind of grabbed yourself and you said, I can't believe I just did it.
That's a good question. And it's a good question because I consider myself like an optimist person, and what I read is that optimist people, they tend to forget negative experiences, and that's why they're happy. Uh, it's not maybe I'll have like a better example later. What comes to my mind is like I really hate myself when I use like filler words that we're going to try or we're going to attempt to build X, Y, Z. And then I see the facial expression, on the other side, like sort of going from smiling to melting, because all these little filler words, they indicate uncertainty. And
Right.
if you're uncertain, well, what should the investor think about you? Like, they know you'll be wrong, but at least be certain about your vision and what you want to achieve. So I don't like those moments, and they happen. They still happen sometimes to me. I'm trying to correct it.
Nice. I should say and compliment you that your company and yourself were chosen to participate in Techstars in Tel Aviv in Israel. This is a major accomplishment. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
That's a great achievement. Um, what tips can you share from your interaction in Techstars that early founders can use when they're starting their company?
So there's in the Techstars program, there's a phase which is called Mentor Madness. And what happens in Mentor Madness is that for like 8, 9 days, you get 15-minute meetings with about 100 people. And these are sales executives, VP marketing, serial entrepreneur, investor, different profiles. And with each of them, you need to very crisply summarize your value proposition, what your company does, how you do it, and why it stands out from the competition, why what you do cannot be replicated easily in another way. And this proved to be one of the most valuable parts for me in Mentor Madness, because the more people you pitch your company to, the more you see patterns emerging in terms of what is not convincing, what is it that people don't understand. And you can take all this feedback and refine your sales messaging, refine, even consider it for your product development, and refine your messaging towards investors. So one of the best things to do, I believe, is to get out there and talk to people, and not just hey, I want to pitch my product to you, but reach out. Like, I want to solve this problem. I have this idea. What are your thoughts about it? How do you see this pain point? And just engage in a dialogue with people, not in that you want to sell them something right away, but to get their genuine feedback about what they think about your business. And if you do that with big numbers, not just a few, you see super valuable patterns that allow you to like change your messaging in a way that leads to faster and better customer acquisition, better investor talks, and probably closer to product market fit at one point with your product.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought up messaging, because what I also noticed from a lot of my work with other startups is that at the beginning, a lot of founders are kind of, like you said, it's their baby, so they're in love with their product. And they are almost obsessed, even with investors, talking too much about the product, what the product is doing, the feature of the product, and they're doing feature dumping rather than selling the benefits and the why of the product, and I would say the greater scale of the product and the company's vision and where it can lead. Did you find it true to be in the other cases that you've seen, that at the beginning founders are focusing on product related talk rather than benefit and long-term conversation?
Absolutely. I think it's a classic fallacy of founders and of myself. Like I talk about all the features and going back to Techstars for a second, we had a workshop there. It was the best workshop. It had two slides. On the first slide, what was written is, "What do you sell?" Summarize it. On the next slide, the second question was, "What do your customers buy?" And I wrote down these two things, and when I realized it's not the same, I just thought to myself, like, Akash, you're 37, you worked at so many places, you've been doing airtime for such a long time. Like, how can it be that like you're so myopic about your features? And it was eye-opening for me. And I think a very good question to ask yourself as a founder or also as a salesperson is what are my customers actually buying? And they are not the features.
That's brilliant. I want to repeat this for a second, because that's the first time with all of our past conversation, this is the first time it came up, and it's actually brilliant. Two slides. What do you sell and what does your customer buy? Did I get it correctly?
Precisely.
This is a brilliant exercise that I think every founder should do, even before raising money, or whether it is go to market and refining their messaging, is to ask those two questions. What do you sell, but what does your customer buy? Um, that's brilliant. I'm glad you went through this exercise.
I'm glad to. Like I'm very grateful.
Cool. So what's ahead for Airtime? Let's kind of switch from fundraising a little bit. The company is doing great. Your portfolio is growing. Um, Tell us a bit about the next steps of the company, and where you're planning on taking it in the couple of minutes that we have left.
So currently Airtime is in closed beta. We're working with design partners to hash out case studies with them. We're focusing on like features that are not used, how they need to be changed, and how their adoption can be improved. And we're also focusing on deciding whether a new feature should get on your roadmap and to validate the user need for that. So what we're focusing on is building out our knowledge and case studies in these two areas, and then take this as our packaged product and say, okay, for the go-to-market, as Airtime, I don't want to solve all the user research problems in the world yet. That's the big vision. But for the go to market, I want to be the go-to tool when you want to validate a new feature idea. And because I also have all these case studies in the back and data and best practices that I can share and build dominance in this little niche of niches. That's the next step for the next 6 months. I think that's our most important task. get a few more design partners on board, hash out these 2 case studies with them, and then build all the features that are necessary to support this feature validation and feature change review end to end.
That's brilliant. Akos, thank you so much for your time today. A lot of powerful insights on how to ignite, the imagination of your potential investors, how to find the right investors. And to me, that truly, we've said some really interesting things in this session today, but the focal point of it was the 2 slides that you mentioned. What are you selling and what are your customers buying? That would be probably one of the most powerful advices to any founder raising money today, is to ask themselves those 2 questions and not go into this fallacy of just feature dumping. Don't show off your product, show off your vision, ignite the imagination, and let your investors follow. I urge everyone listening to this podcast to check out Airtime. Brilliant company, can help you get to product market fit quicker than before. And as you've heard, Akos is a brilliant person as well. For everyone else, thank you for tuning in into this session. If you liked all the insight that we shared right now today, give us a like, share the podcast. And until the next time, don't forget we're here to help you sell your vision. Akos, thank you so much, my friend.
Moti, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.